What's the deal, y'all? It's your man Eeze, Mobb Deep The Infamous, track by track breakdown. Let's get right to it. Track one, the start of your ending for the first side. First thing that you hear are slowed down guitars, strings, an organ, and some chimes. Beautiful sound. Salute to Havoc. Fat snare, kick with like a bright overtone, and that signature eighth note hi-hat. Havoc had a solid verse on here lyrically, but P was locked in. Another classic opening line. Feels like you could literally envision the very words that he was uttering. Vivid images. Perfect opening to an album. Track two happens to be the infamous Prelude. Happens to be a skit. Um, I must say, when it comes to the skits on this album or the preludes, it plays like a huge part in the totality of the album, right? Having it on the separate tracks is also as a listener a great experience, because if you don't want to hear it, you can kind of skip it, as opposed to some other albums where the skit is on the actual track as the song and you have to wait 45 seconds or fast forward. It takes away from the experience. So they got this correct. Seamless transition into survival of the fittest. So my question to you, do you like the skits rock or do you skip ahead? Let me know in the comment section. To track three, survival of the fittest. Havoc can literally turn any sound into like a haunting, dark experience. Like, I believe that's like a piano or electric piano, and he manipulated it and created a classic tone and like musical composition, like the 16 triplet kick, airy snare with a late decay. The beat literally sounds like survival, real rap, man. Another classic opening line by P. Havoc's verse doesn't get enough credit either, but I will put it up against a lot of people's best verses, but it just so happens that P's verse was iconic. So there we have it, man. Lastly, Havoc chorus game is impeccable, man. Havoc is it's a genius, real rap, man. Doesn't get enough credit in that area. He's well rounded when it comes to production, from top to bottom. You know what I mean? Track four, iPhone 9, Your Beef Is Mine. In my opinion, this could very well be possibly the best executed posse cut, right? In the sense that, just hear me out. No whack verses. Is a B-side that most hip hop fans can recite many different lines to. Elite features from Nas and Raekwon. And if you play this in any hip hop environment, watch the energy elevate. Wasn't a single, but it resonated with so many different people. Eerie production appears to be like a sub bass following the kick. Snare sounds like a rim shot with heavy reverb. The melody is genius level, considering what he started with the original sample and how he flipped it. Havoc he's remarkable, man. Also, little subtleties, right? Like having Nas and Ray recite the hook at the end of the song adds a different level, right? The song kept building to the very end. No lapses, no time off, no breaks. Track five, Just Step Prelude. I must say, once again, a skit or prelude which isn't filler, right? Another engaging experience. This Big Noyd verse comes with a very high approval rating. Real rap. People were spitting that heavy as if it was an actual song. Tell me I'm lying. Tell me I'm lying. P still came home with a shine. Was later sampled on Royal Flush's Ghetto Millionaire album. P may be one of the most sampled hip hop artists ever, man. Shout out to Queens, man. Dope prelude. Track six, Give Up the Goods, Just Step. Q-Tip, the Queens legend. You know him, I know him. Arguably the most influential individual in hip hop history, was on the boards for this one, right? Filtered sample, tight kick, heavy bass line. Perfect addition to this album, this particular song. Musicality is present, for sure. That's Q-Tip all day. Yet it doesn't veer away from the group's main objective, right? It fits in perfectly. Hands down the best flip of Esther Phillips sample I've ever heard in hip hop. He did his thing on that one. Shout out to Tip. I love the way they didn't follow a formula either. Like from the hook to allowing P to finish his verse with just drums for about 8 bars. That's how you keep an audience engaged. Formatting, right? It can be 4 different elements, but the way you format it can make it sound like so much more than it really is, man. So Q-Tip, man. Shout out to Q-Tip and the Mob. Fire track. Track 7, Temperatures Rising. I love that Tip kept adding to Mobb's progression, right? Like challenging them with different musical textures, smooth, enticing chord progressions, uh, over drums that's pretty much slapping like dead in your face, right? Sounds like a well manicured blend tape. Remember blend tapes? That's what this sounds like. Like you're taking different elements, mesh them together, but it works and it works seamlessly, right? Like we mentioned earlier, the arrangement between filtered and unfiltered samples, it kind of tugs at your emotions, and Q-Tip kind of mastered that. These brothers like were literally pouring out their hearts on this song, and they were young individuals too, man. We can't forget the queen on the hook, Crystal Johnson. She also added a different dynamic and element to the track, which was very memorable. I wouldn't change anything about the song at all, man. Nothing. Up North Trip is next. That's track 8. If you needed any evidence of Q-Tip's influence on Havoc's production, just pay attention to this particular song. From Temperature Rising to Up North Trip, right? The drum sounds and manipulation of the samples are kind of similar. Like, you can tell that Havoc was finding his footing and learning from the legend, man. That's what makes people great, right? The fact that you're willing to take a back seat and know that you are in the room with greatness and just pick certain elements from them and add it to your style. So Up North Trip definitely reminds us that Q-Tip played a pivotal role in Havoc's production or journey. It's great formatting on this particular song. The hook is fire. I love Havoc's verse on this, and I was listening to it, and for the first time, I asked myself, was this the first time where P on record opened up to God? I could be wrong, but that kind of jumped out at me while I was reviewing this album again. Love the song though. Track 9, Trife Life. This is the perfect flip of Norman Connor's You're My Starship. The intro takes you down the path, and then once the beat drops, you're traveling down another road. And listen to the subject matter. Late teens, early 20s, and they have the creativity to address real issues, right? So yes, how you move out here is a survival skill for sure. Like lines like, even though I took his life, all I wanted was his chain, like to this day is like menacing, it's disturbing, and it mirrors how some people think. And although we may not understand it, these are the environments they were in. So just to hear him pen something like so simple but profound, it still jumps out at me. Also, when you listen to this track, the first thing that comes to my mind is like take all those formulaic ways of creating music and just throw them off a skyscraper, man, because this song has no formula. Like they was just doing exactly what they wanted, and that's why a lot of these tunes still resonate with you, because there was no formula. It was heartfelt. Next up, track 10, QU Hectic. Every time I hear this track, it feels as though this was the stepping stone to God Part 3 off of Hell on Earth. Same type of feeling, eerie, similar instruments, sinister strings or pad. Has the same sample stab from Shook One's Part 2 with a nice saxophone riff. Like it just works. Once again, hook isn't 4 bars, 2 bars in the middle of the song and right to the verse. And at the end of the song, they remix the hook to feature different parts of NYC. That type of formatting keeps the music moving along, progressing. And it's never like a dull moment for the audience. So they were tapping into something totally different, man. I don't know. They was checking all boxes for sure. Track 11, right back at you. It sounds like a 3-finger chord, production-wise, being played like on an electric piano while using like the pitch bend. That snare is directly in your face. Literally sounds like a slap with heavy reverb on it. Havoc's signature 8th note hi-hats. P has some memorable lines on this. But when Havoc doubles P's verses or his lines, that's mean. Something about that vocal tone when you mesh both of them together, it's elite. Another catchy but true to musical identity chorus. Ghost and Ray Energy took this song up 3 notches for sure. Just a gritty song with the perfect selection of features, man. Great song. Skip the prelude, track 12, get right to track 13, which happens to be Cradle to the Grave. Those record scratches get me every single time. Like less is more too, right? So just a bass line with drums and an occasional appearance by a horn, I believe. Always loved this hook and how P kind of played off of the Cradle to the Grave ad-libs. He matched the words, but used different inflections with his voice. Possibly my favorite song on the album. Yeah, this is possibly my favorite song on the album. Let's move on to track 14, Drink Away the Pain Situations. You ever wanted to hear Mobb Deep and Tribe on the track together? Well, this was served like as a preview to that, right? Funky filter sample, truncated snare. I love how Tip stayed true to himself. Instead of talking about alcohol or drinking, he spoke about designers, which was like a huge contrast to what P was speaking about, right? Perfect contrast. Even had his own hook. Havoc tied things together with a verse about Hennessy. Even touched on alcohol addiction for about 1 or 2 lines. So I always thought that was interesting as well. They was checking all boxes, man. Checking all boxes. 15, Shook One's Part 2. Man, listen, I don't really have to speak about this song. You know what it is. One of the biggest records in hip-hop history. Is featured at number 15 in the track list on this album. That's a testament to how much sequencing meant to them. It was about the overall project and putting it together, man. Shook One's Part 2, track 15. Havoc's ad-libs and doubles on P's verse is perfection. His tone adds to the elements in ways that you can't really explain. Also, what the engineer did to those original drums when compared to the completed version, phenomenal work, man. Phenomenal. Both Hav and Pete had classic opening lines. We know P is iconic, but Hav shakes the room too, for sure. 2 dope opening lines. Chorus is elite level. It's a perfect record. If I needed to play a song for someone who's unfamiliar with hip hop, this would probably be in the top 3, for sure. Let's move on to track 16, Party Over. It's a good closing record. It brings everything together. It comes full circle. Similar vibe and tempo to how the album began. Listening to it now, it feels like or sounds like a B-side that would have been on like a hip-hop movie soundtrack from the early 90s, right? Perfect way to mellow out the energy from Shook One's Part 2. Also, when you listen to the production, it's like 2 years before he tapped into the Hell on Earth sound and vibe, where bass lines didn't necessarily match musicality-wise or theory-wise, but it felt right. Biggest takeaways from the album, one of the best sequenced albums ever, hands down. One of the best sequenced albums ever, not hip-hop albums ever. Another interesting note, Big Noyd on this album had the perfect rollout. Everyone knew who he was. He had about maybe 3 or 4 songs he was on. Perfect rollout to his solo LP, but things just didn't pan out the way they were supposed to. The other takeaway is that Q-Tip is a genius, and Havoc's ability to learn from him speaks to his greatness as well. Also, salute to the engineer. Tony Smalios. Q-Tip was also an engineer on here. Mastering engineer Leon Zervos, and recording engineer Louis Alfred III. Because what they did on this album was remarkable. Also, shout out to producer Scott Free, who's also credited on the album. So that is Mobb Deep's The Infamous track by track breakdown. What's your favorite track on the album? Let me know in the comments section. Also, which production did you like better from Havoc, The Infamous or Hell on Earth? Let me know in the comments section. It's your man Eeze at the Eeze Experience. I appreciate all y'all out there. Go get your chill.
Hey, yo, Eeze.